Hey Saints family, welcome back to the Saints Church YouTube channel. We are so glad you're here. Today, we're continuing our series, It's a Hard Knock Life. This series is all about the lessons from the missionary journey of Paul and how to overcome obstacles and challenges as you pursue the will and call of God for your life. As a church family, we believe God meets us right where we are, and we believe this message is going to encourage your faith, strengthen your heart, and remind you that your story is not over. To follow along with the reading plan, click the link in the video description. That's where you can access the daily scriptures. Today's message is from our lead pastor, Jordan Durso, and I already know it will bless you. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can stay aware of all things Saints. Let's get into the message now.
We're in our series, It's a Hard Knock Life, and we learned Sunday that Paul and his team are on their second missionary journey, and they have now crossed into Europe. And then when they crossed into Europe, it says they were there in Macedonia, and it says they went down to the river to find a place to pray. They went down to the river to find a place to pray, and they were met by women. They went down to the river to find a place to pray, and they were met by a group of women. And one of the women there was Lydia, and she becomes the first convert there in Europe. And this is the beginning of the Philippian church and the churches that are in that area. And so we're going to be in Acts chapter 16. And it is an awesome passage. I'm going to read a little bit, so bear with me. Remember, they were going down to the river to find a place to pray, and they were met by a group of women. Verse 16, chapter 16, once when we were going to the place of prayer. Again, going to pray, they were on their way to a prayer meeting. We were met by a female slave who had a spirit by which she predicted the future. Just a little note, twice. This is the same chapter. What I preached on Sunday, verses 16 till 15, they were going down to the river to pray. They were met by a group of women. Again, they are going to find a place of prayer, and they're met by a woman. So, put this clip on social media to all the single brothers that didn't make it to the prayer meeting. You don't want this kind of woman, but God sets her free, so maybe so. She earned a great deal of money for her owners by fortune telling. She followed Paul and the rest of us, shouting, "These men are servants of the Most High God who are telling you the way to be saved." She kept this up for many days. Finally, Paul became so annoyed that he turned around and said to the spirit, not to the woman, to the spirit, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to come out of her." At that moment, the spirit left her. When her owners realized that their hope of making money was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace to face the authorities. They brought them before the magistrates and said, "These men are Jews and are throwing our city into an uproar by advocating customs unlawful for us Romans to accept or practice." The crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. After they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cell and fastened their feet in stocks. About midnight. You know where we're going with this, right, guys? About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. You ready? No, I'm not praying and singing. You ready to pray and sing? Man, people are like scared of my singing. Paul and Silas would have loved if I sang with them. I'm just saying. That's right. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly, there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open, and everyone's everyone's chains came loose. Guys, at once, all the prison doors were opened and everyone's chains came loose. Not just Paul and Silas, not just their door, not just their chains, but everybody. The jailer woke up, and when he saw the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourself, we are all here." The jailer called for lights, rushed in, and fell trembling before Paul and Silas. He then brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They replied, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your whole household." Amen. Then they spoke the word of the Lord to him and to all the others in his house. At that hour of the night, the jailer took them and washed their wounds. So their wounds were open prior to this, right? Then immediately he and all his household were baptized. The jailer brought them into his house and set a meal before them. He was filled with joy because he had come to believe in God. I mean, this guy got right to serving, right? Saved, baptized, let's go, start serving. That's it, guys, I'm done. He was filled with joy because he had come to believe in God, he and his whole household. When it was daylight, the magistrates sent their officers to the jailer with the order, "Release those men." The jailer told Paul, "The magistrates have ordered that you and Silas be relieved. Now you can leave. Go in peace." But Paul said to the officers, "They beat us publicly without a trial, even though we are Roman citizens, and threw us into prison. And now do they want to get rid of us quietly? No. Let them come themselves and escort us out." The officers reported this to the magistrates, and when they heard that Paul and Silas were Roman citizens, they were alarmed. They came to appease them and escorted them from the prison, requesting them to leave the city. After Paul and Silas came out of the prison, they went to Lydia's house, where they met with the brothers and sisters and encouraged them. 24 hours later, guys, 24 hours later, after all they had been through, wounds open, beaten, bleeding, 24 hours later, these guys are encouraging a group of believers. But let's start from the beginning. Paul and Silas are doing ministry. They cast a demon out of a slave girl, bringing freedom to her, but costing her owners money. So now they're dragged into the marketplace, falsely accused, stripped naked, publicly humiliated, beaten with rods, severely flogged, thrown into prison, the inner cell like maximum security, fasten their feet in stocks or chains. No trial, no justice, no warning, no care, beaten and bound and bleeding. This is a hard knock moment. It says about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Paul and Silas turned their prison into a prayer meeting. Remember, this all started from them going to find a place to pray. They were on their way to a prayer meeting when they got taken and brought into the marketplace and stripped and beaten and all this stuff. They could have said, "Man, this didn't start so well last time. No thanks." About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. Let that sink in. Not after they got out, not after everything was all better, not after they got clothes on, not after their wounds were healed, not after they were vindicated, not after things got better, but in the middle of the prison, in the middle of the inner cell, beaten, bound, and bleeding. These guys couldn't control the circumstances. They couldn't control the beating, they couldn't control the chains, they couldn't control the pain, they couldn't control the injustice, but they could control their response. They couldn't control what happened to them, but they could control how they responded to it. You ever heard the thermostat versus the thermometer? You know that one, right? The thermometer reflects the temperature, thermostat sets it. Most people let their situation dictate their responses. But Paul and Silas choose to set the atmosphere here about midnight. About midnight. That's significant. It's the darkest point of the night. It's the furthest point from light. And that's where they start singing. Not complaining, not questioning, but praising. And this isn't passive, this is spiritual warfare here. Anyone can sing when the sun is shining. It takes faith to sing when you're hurting, when you're confused, when you don't have it all figured out, when you don't know exactly what's happening, when you can't understand, when you're like, God, why is this happening? I don't get it. It's frustrating. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And they weren't alone. And can I tell somebody, neither are you? You're not alone. People are with you going through the same things, whether you think that or not. People are watching you going through the same things. The text says, and the other prisoners were listening to them. There were other prisoners in the prison going through the same thing that these guys were going through. And they might have committed a crime, but they were still in the same place that Paul and Silas was. Their praise wasn't private, it was public. And their praise becomes a testimony to all the others that are listening. Here's the reality. Someone is always watching how you go through the hard season. Your family, your coworkers, your friends, people who don't even believe yet. And they're just not listening to what you say when life is good. They're watching how you live when life is tough. It's your silent sermon. Many people will never hear a sermon maybe in church, but they'll see a sermon as you live. When you're walking through the tough seasons, when you're trusting God, when it doesn't make sense to trust God, when everybody around you is like, hey man, just give up. God's not responding. This is never gonna happen. Go through it. You're never gonna get that apartment. You're never gonna get that raise. Your marriage is never gonna get, oh man, your kids are never gonna come. Oh, that health thing is never gonna get, man, and people just start, but they're watching how you respond. They're watching your midnights. You don't need a stage to preach. You don't need a stage to preach. You can preach from your prison. You can preach from your midnight. People are watching. Your prison might be the platform that God is going to use to reach someone, whether it be a coworker, whether it be a family member, whether it be an enemy. Verse 26, suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once, all the prison doors flew open. They're worshiping, they're praising, they're praying. They get into God's presence and God responds. They call on the name of Jesus and God responds. The ground shakes, chains break, doors open, chains loosened. But notice, they didn't praise to get out. They praised because God was worthy while they were still in it. And that kind of praise invites power. That kind of praise opens doors that you can't. If you can learn to sing in the night, you'll see God move in ways that you never dreamed or imagined. But praise doesn't just change your situation, it changes what God can do in it. And I want to tell you, don't wait for the doors to open to worship. Don't even worship for the doors to open. Worship just because he's worthy now. And when we worship like that, God opens doors. And even though the doors open, which was a cool miracle, it wasn't the big miracle here. The open doors were just a sign. The jailer wakes up. He sees the doors open and he assumes that everyone escaped. And so he's about to take his own life and Paul yells, "Don't harm yourself, we're all here." You're like, wait, what? The door's open, the chain's loosed. Not just Paul and Silas, but everybody. These other people, they were criminals. They could have ran for their lives. They were facing a death sentence or a prison sentence, whatever. But no, everyone stayed. Doors are open, they didn't leave. Paul and Silas knew that their mission was bigger than their freedom. The jailer was about to kill himself. This jailer he was like seconds away from death. He goes, "Hey, what must I do to be saved?" And that very night that all this happened, he and his whole household are saved. and baptized, and his home and everyone in it are filled with joy. Now listen, if Paul and Silas had complained, if they panicked, if they ran out when the doors opened, this moment never happens. Had they not worshiped at midnight, the jailer actually, if they had ran out from the prison, this jailer dies. He kills himself. His family would be mourning. But because Paul and Silas worship, death turns to life, mourning turns to joy, and lives are transformed. Their praise doesn't just open doors, it opens a man's heart. That this man then opens his home, which opens more hearts. Guys, we have no idea. We have no idea how we respond in the tough moments, how that will affect other people. I don't know about you, but anybody praying for a family member tonight? Anybody praying for a friend? Anybody praying for a neighbor? Anybody praying for an enemy? Anybody praying for a child? Anybody praying for a spouse? What looked like the end for Paul and Silas was the beginning of something incredible for everyone around them. Was it tough? Yeah. Was it horrible? Yeah. Was it painful? Yeah. Was it unfair? Yeah. Was it the worst thing that could be happening to them in that moment? Yeah. But God came through and turned it all around. And I'm not making light of our situations, but let's worship rather than worry. Let's praise rather than panic. Let's turn that waiting season into a waiting on God season, that painful situation into a prayer meeting, that emotional struggle into a holy stance. This situation will not win. We may not be able to leave it yet, but we can choose how we live in it now. Midnight doesn't last forever. This too shall pass. But what you do at midnight matters. What you do in the dark will determine what God does in the light. And some of us might be in a midnight season. Musicians, you come help me. Esteban, come help me. We're gonna worship. We're gonna praise. You might be in a midnight season right now. You might feel like you're in a prison right now. You might feel like this is the toughest thing you've ever faced. I don't see a way out. I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You ever go to the beach and that wave hits you and you're tumbling around and you're trying to gasp for air and you finally stand up, another wave hits you and you're tumbling around and it's just nonstop and you're like, you start to gasp for air. You have no more strength left to keep going. Start thinking this is the end. That season, that kind of season. You've been in that season. You've been struggling to see the purpose in it. You've been struggling to see God in it. This is our moment. This is our moment to praise and worship at our midnight hour.